Okay, a resolution authorizing the advertising for bids for the 2019 road resurfacing program for the attached list of roadways throughout Monroeville.
Motion?
There's a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. Any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like council to consider, and I've checked through the manager's office, that this would be feasible to add another $500,000 to the road resurfacing program, which would take this kind of, we'd have to rescind that if everybody agrees. But we need to keep going forward like we did last year. The manager says that this would definitely be affordable and worth it because of improving our roads, and it would certainly add to the road resurfacing program. So I would like to make, I guess at this point, I would ask council if they're in favor of the extra $500,000, that we'd have to take that off
I
the
am.
table.
I am.
I am.
Mr. Mayor, I also have a comment on that.
Go ahead.
Josie, what is our fund balance right now currently?
Oh, I don't know.
Tim, do
I'd
you know
have
off
to
the
look
top
it
of your
up.
head?
Well, not off the top of my head.
But
I
roughly.
mean, I'd rather not say, okay, until I get you a pretty good figure.
Well, because what I'd like to do, the same as we did for this year, I'd like that, not 500,000, but $1 million, because we are so far behind on our road repair. This is, without public safety and road repair and keeping our communities and our roads safe, what are we doing up here?
Mr. Arasinko, the only reason why I said $500,000 is because after investigating today that there was extraordinary amount of funds coming up that we're going to have to pay for, like the renovation of our roof and the heating and HVAC system above our heads and things like that. So that stuff is still out there floating on the table waiting for funding, and I that is why I said $500,000.
And I get that, but there's also a funding stream coming in from the pool. Am I not correct? That we could use for infrastructure.
We don't know when that fits, though, Greg. I mean, when is
That's
that?
not finalized.
That's not finalized or due yet.
I also have a question.
You don't want
Mr.
to put the
Duncan.
cart before the horse.
Did we not take $1 million out to start up the MS4 out of our general balance?
Yes, sir.
So now we're asking for, if we go with Greg, another $1 million? So that'd be $2 million out of our
But the
fund
MS
balance?
MS4 will be paying back.
would be
the money.
paid back.
Understandable, but that money only goes to MS4 projects.
Correct.
So they'll pay back, hopefully they will, they'll pay back that $1 million, and we're asking for another $1 million?
It's just 1 million then.
Well, not only that,
two.
but that
Well, it's
million.
not paid back yet.
No,
That's my
agreed.
point.
No, I agree.
So we're drafting $2 million out of our fund balance. Hey, so be it.
Well, could we maybe back up a second here? So we have Mr. Harvey suggesting 500,000.
I'll go with
why
the
don't we-
majority. I'm just throwing that out there just for this fact is, everybody sitting up here and watching on TV and hearing this audience knows, we have a lot of road repair.
And
to
I
get done.
don't disagree with you, Mr. Arsico, but as Mr. Harvey stated, when there's other capital improvement projects that we also need to consider, that have come up, and we don't have that put into our budget already, then maybe we need that extra money as well to.
And I'll concede on it, but like I
So
said,
let's
if
go
we
with
get
the half.
extra, I would like to see us put it into
I have no problem.
infrastructure.
Correct.
And one other comment on that, if we can.
Go ahead,
and
Mr.
add
Coach.
to Mr. Arasinko is, this is the second year in the row we guessed less in the budgetary process. So let's take the lesson learned. And if the extra $500,000 moves us to 1.5 total towards road resurfacing, roughly, am I in the same ballpark based upon didn't we put $1 million this year already?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
This
the
puts you
million
at
this year was
1.5.
800,000 the year prior to
Right.
that. So lesson learned, next year's budget, start at 1.5.
If we can do that, I'm good.
I mean, wouldn't this
I want to
come,
get caught up.
wouldn't this come to resolution 4? Advertising for bids?
That's what we're talking
Well, we're
about right now.
talking in general
Oh,
conversation.
so we jumped ahead a little bit.
No, no,
Well,
no.
No, no, we're
No,
not-
we
It's
had
just a
to
discussion
make
on
the
it,
motion
Steve,
to
yeah.
have a discussion.
And now we
Mr.
have to
Duncan.
act on the
Yeah,
motion.
there's a motion and a second to approve item number 4, which is the resolution to authorize the advertising of bids. Within that discussion.
I
within
guess
the-
part of my discussion would be, Paul, you're the one that sets this sheet up, am I correct?
Correct,
Or your department?
correct.
Okay. Just,
So, Mr. Ratcher, what would we do? Do we rescind the motions or how do we do that to up the money to 1.5?
The existing motion, or the existing resolution has $1 million in it roughly.
Yes,
You want to add 500,000.
yes,
I'd make a motion to amend,
just to make
to
it,
add the extra $500,000 with the proviso that it be, if you choose, that the additional roads be selected according to the same process that's used for,
okay, should I
the other
then
road.
rescind, should I ask?
you don't need to
withdraw?
rescind it, just amend your motion.
Okay.
Amend, whoever made the motion can amend.
I did, I made them, I'll make a motion to amend the motion to 1.5, as per Mr. Harvey's request.
and I have a question.
One
We have
moment.
to second this.
Wait, one moment, yeah.
I'm
one
not
moment. So
seconding.
I just want to make sure. So we have a motion, you're amending your motion to
To-
1.5.
To 1.5 is Mr.
And now,
Harvey's request.
council, you have a list of roads in front of you.
Let's vote on the amended motion.
We have to,
Do we,
Vote on the amendment.
we have to vote, we have to get a second on the
Right.
revision
Get a second
first.
and vote on the amendment, and then you can talk.
I'll second it.
Okay,
I
there.
think I can come into question now, correct?
I have one more before, just one moment. I just want to make sure we got this all straight. Because now we're also going to be amending the road list.
Correct.
Correct.
Is that part of her motion?
I believe it was intended to
Yes.
be, but let's hear from her.
It is.
Okay, so you're.
I agree.
That's,
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, Mr.
And that
Hughes
is,
will take care of
that
that
is
in
per
his staff.
Mr. Yugas's recommendation out of his office.
Right, I mean, obviously, there's a methodology of how we come up with a list of roads.
Right, so you're going to amend that to add another $500,000 worth of
That's
street
what your
work.
wishes are.
Yes, that's my.
So we have a
motion.
motion and a second. Mr. Duncan.
To amend.
Oh, I get to ask my question. My question was just that. There's $1 million on the table now, and here's the list.
Correct.
Okay. Whether it's fair or square or whatever, I'm going to go along, because Paul's very educated in this source, on what streets need done. Now we're adding another 500,000, so there'll be a revised list before we vote.
No, no.
We have-
not
Before we vote.
We have to authorize them.
No, so we're just going to vote, and then whatever happens, happens with
No,
that
then
other
he'll-
500,000.
And he'll submit the
He'll
list.
submit the
right.
list.
Mike, this is what
Yeah,
I'm,
let's
this is what I'm
kind of
surmising here.
That's why I'm
Cart
at,
before
I
the
know
horse a
what you're
little
trying
bit.
to say here. So
We're going to revise the list using our current methodology and still stick with the schedule of having it in front of you in May with the bid openings. So, because we don't want to postpone this another month, because we'll be
Correct.
behind schedule.
All you're doing is advertise, all you're doing is making a motion to advertise, is all you're doing, but the amount of money of what you're advertising is basically, as Mr. Ratcher said, is what the amendment is, but as far as the list of the roads, that will be incorporated in, and you will get a new list of roads that will be added at next month's meeting. You'll have it before next month.
And I'm all in favor of infrastructure, believe me. I have no issues
Sure.
with that. And I feel it's a good move, but I just don't understand the way it's being presented. It should have been brought up at budget time or whatever. But all of a sudden, we come down to a vote for $1 million. Now we want to make it $1.5 million, but
I think we
so
did,
be it.
I think we did the exact same thing
It
last
should have been,
year.
I know, but
Mr.
that
Post
doesn't mean that it was right.
Yes, Mr. Post
Maybe we
is
should
right.
fix
We
it.
should have started higher.
Just start higher.
Yeah.
Well, last year, you actually.
You know, we
did
should have
it.
lived and learned last year,
We
but
should
whatever.
have, but hopefully we
Do
did
what we
learn
got to
this
do
year.
here, guys. I'm in favor of infrastructure.
Last year, it was added on at the time of the bid openings.
Oh.
Which really put us in a bad way, because we didn't have a lot of time to forecast all the repairs.
was last
that needed to
minute.
be done. It was a last minute, yes,
So
Steve.
this is better. Next year will be even
absolutely.
soon
Now we
better.
can-
This is a minute before last minute.
Right, we can incorporate it and
So
forecast
next year
that.
we'll be 5 minutes ahead.
Okay.
Okay. Can we
So
vote
we
now?
will, and once again, we will get council will get to see all the roads that we'll be voting on this year and that'll be repaired. And not to belabor it more, but if you could, Mr. Hugus, give us a very brief, or the public at least.
Description.
The methodology, the PASER scoring and things of that, how these
We,
things are.
we use what's called a PACER score, which is the Pavement Service Evaluation and Rating System, where we physically go through and look at all the roads and evaluate them on a scale of 1 to 10. We come up with a listing of those roads based on those evaluations. Then we apply the methodology, whether it's a traditional milling pave, if it's a seal coat, if it's fog sealing. This one actually is incorporated with crack sealing. So there's various methods to do, because we're going from roadway preservation to still the mode we're in. Because we're so far behind, we're still preserving roads, because we're so far behind. You know, we should be doing about 1.8 million of paving per year. to keep up with our schedule, but we're not. And this is sort of the method of making sure our roads don't completely fail, because if they do, to reconstruct them would be astronomical.
Understood. Very good. Thank you for the explanation. So, council, I have a motion and a second on the amendment. So this is, you're going to be voting to vote for the amendment from the 1 to 1.5. Everybody understands what we're voting on, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's an affirmative vote is to approve the amendment. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. John?
Aye.
Mr. Arcinigo?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
I'm in favor of infrastructure, aye.
The ayes have it. So now, council, we're going to vote on, we have a motion and a second to approve item number 4, which is the resolution to authorize the advertising for the bids.
So move.
Second.
No, there's already a,
We already have one, but we
I'm
have a
sorry.
motion and a second already.
Jump on it, JJ.
I did. I did.
Just hold it till you vote. So now, okay, any more comments on that? Very good. So we have a motion and a second to approve the advertising. Roll call, please.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Arcinigo?
Aye.
Mr. John?
I
Mr.
twice.
Harvey?
There we go.
Aye.
Ditto.
Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Those two are really in favor of it. So very good. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
They really